Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters. I'm your host Mitch, glad to have you here. Here at the Commander's Quarters, we're all about Commander on a budget. Today's episode is going to be a $50 deck tech. When I say $50, I mean that is an overall deck cost. Both shipping and commanders that are $10 or less are going to be included in that cost, but basic lands will not be. Decks on this channel are built to be fun, inexpensive, and focused. If you want to learn more about what a focused commander deck is, check out this video here. On this deck tech, I'm going to take you through its strategy, the tactics, and how this deck wins. This show and episodes like this one are possible because of viewers like you. So if you're looking for some easy ways to help support the show, make sure you like this episode and share it with friends. And make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Thank you to everyone who's already purchased our merchandise, it really does help support the channel. Another easy way to support this channel is by using our TCGplayer affiliate links. So make sure that you're looking for those links in the description whenever you're buying a deck or just individual cards. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support. Today's episode comes to you courtesy of Ben. Ben has been supporting this channel for over a year now as a general tier patron. I really couldn't do this without amazing patrons like Ben. And today, Ben's going to handle the intro for me.
Hey Mitch, this is Ben from England. For my deck tech, I would like to see you build on O-Kagachi, Vengeful Kami, focusing on the Spirit and Arcane spells from the Kamigawa block.
So as Ben said, today's deck techs can be built around O-Kagachi, Vengeful Kami, focusing on Spirit and Arcane spells from Kamigawa. O-Kagachi is a 6/6 Dragon Spirit with Flying and Trample, and it costs 1 in Wooburg. It has whenever it deals combat damage to a player, if that player attacked us during their last turn, exile target non-land permanent that player controls. Because O-Kagachi is all 5 colors, it gives us access to all the Spirit and Arcane spells that we need. It's also a decent threat, and it can even discourage opponents from attacking us. Outside the Kamigawa block, there are some decent spirits too, but we're going to be mostly focusing on those Kamigawa spirits. So our strategy for this deck is pretty straightforward. We're going to generate value from casting spirits and arcane spells. Many of the Kamigawa cards play really well with each other and really focus on spirits and arcane spells. And then how do we win with this deck? We're going to overwhelm our opponents with our spirit army. With this deck, we can generate a lot of value and utilize our commander to control the board. As with all Commander's Quarters decks, I'm going to take you through 10 different tactics that show you how the deck works and how we're going to win with it. So let's start things off with tactic number 1, Spiritual Awakening. First up, there's Wayfarer's Bauble, which we can pay 2 to tap and sacrifice to get a basic land into play tapped. And then there's Sakura Tri-Belter, which we can sacrifice to do the same. Some other great early ramp spells include Farseek, Rampant Growth, and Edge of Autumn. Farseek can get us either a Plains, Island, Swamp, or Mountain into play tapped. And then Rampant Growth and Edge of Autumn can get us any basic into play tapped. Next up, we've got Cultivate and Kodama's Reach, which do the exact same thing. Both are going to get us 1 basic land into play tapped and 1 into our hand. The only difference is that Kodama's Reach is actually an arcane spell, so it can help us out in other ways. And then there's Grow from the Ashes, which gets us 1 basic into play untapped or 2 if we kicked it. Next up, there's Explosive Vegetation and Circuitous Route, which can both get us 2 basics in play tapped. And finally, we've even got 2 spirits that can help ramp us too. Loam Dweller has, whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, you may put a land card from your hand into play tapped. And then Petalmain Baku says, whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, you may put a key counter on Petalmain Baku. By paying 1, you can remove X key counters from Petalmain Baku and add X mana of any 1 color to your mana pool. Outside of these 2 though, there are plenty of other spirits that help benefit us whenever we cast a spirit or arcane spell. Let's tackle some of those now in tactic number 2, Spirit World. First up, there's Bounteous Kirin, which says whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, you gain life equal to that spell's converted mana cost. This is a fantastic way to pad your life total by casting spells that you'd already be casting. You can also pad your life total with Thief of Hope, which says whenever you cast a spirit or arcane spell, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. On top of that, it has Soul Shift too, so when this creature dies, you can return target spirit card with converted mana cost of 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. It might not seem like much, but this draining effect can really add up throughout the game. A somewhat mean spirit, but one that we are including, is Gorger. It says whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, you may destroy target non-basic land. In a format like Commander, we're going to have plenty of targets for this. And finally, we've got some ways to deal with creatures with Nebelgast Herald and Skyfire Kirin. Nebelgast Herald has flash, and whenever it or another spirit enters the battlefield under our control, we tap target creature an opponent controls. And then Skyfire Kirin says whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, you may gain control of target creature with that spell's converted mana cost until end of turn. Just from casting 1 spell, we can get a ton of extra value just by having some of these effects in play. And we even have some ways to fill up our board with even more spirits. So it's time for us to move on to tactic number 3, Free Spirit. First up, we actually have the Golden Pig of this deck, which is the number 1 card out of our 99. And the Golden Pig of this deck is a Yobi who split the heavens. It's a 3/6 spirit with flying that costs 6 and a white. It says whenever you cast a spirit or arcane spell, create a 3/3 white spirit creature token with flying. This can get out of control very quickly in this deck. A ton of our spells are spirits or arcane spells, so getting a 3/3 anytime we cast one of those spells is huge. It won't take long for us to build up our spirit army and really take over the game, and that's what makes this the Golden Pig. We've also got some other ways though to create some spirits with Field of Souls and Abzan Ascendancy. Field of Souls says whenever a non-token creature is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. Abzan Ascendancy essentially does the exact same thing but with an extra effect, because when it comes into play you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. These are both fantastic ways of replacing our non-token creatures that die, and although they only make 1/1s, those 1/1s might not stay so small for too long. So now let's move on to tactic number 4, Team Spirit. First up, there's Kodama the South Tree, which says whenever you play a Spirit or Arcane spell, each other creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. This can really help us pump our entire team and get some extra damage through. Another way to pump our team comes with Battleground Geist. It has other spirit creatures you control get +1/+0. So while this might not help us defensively, it does help us offensively. We've also got some cards that can help us with both though. Supreme Phantom says other spirits you control get +1/+1. And Long Forgotten Go High says arcane spells you cast cost 1 less to cast and spirit creatures you control get +1/+1. So this not only pumps our team, but it can also make some of our spells cheaper. And finally, we're running Ethereal Absolution, which is a fantastic Anthem effect for this stack. It says creatures you control get +1/+1, and creatures your opponents control get -1/-1. Can also pay 2 white, black, and exile target card for an opponent's graveyard. If it was a creature card, you create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying. So it pumps our creatures, shrinks our opponent's creatures, and it can also make spirit tokens. But how are we actually going to get to all these great cards? Let's tackle that now in tactic number 5, Spirit Summons. First up, there's Elder Pine of Jukai, which says whenever you play a Spirit or Arcane spell, reveal the top 3 cards of your library, put all land cards revealed this way into your hand, and the rest of the bottom of your library in any order. On top of that, it also has Soul Shift too, so we can actually get a Spirit back with it as well. And then there's Tomorrow a Zombie's Familiar, which says if you would draw a card, look at the top 3 cards of your library instead. Put one of those cards into your hand and the rest of the bottom of your library in any order. So this can really help us with card selection by getting the right cards into our hand. Next up is Haru Ona, which when it comes into play we draw a card, and whenever we cast a Spirit or Arcane spell we can bring it back to our hand. And then Primordial Sage says whenever you cast a creature spell you may draw a card. Even more effective in this deck though might be Sire of the Storm, which says whenever you play a Spirit or Arcane spell you may draw a card. Again, in this deck we're running a ton of Spirit and Arcane spells, so these can really benefit us. Another way to benefit from our spirits comes with Ribbons of the Reikai. It says draw a card for each spirit you control. Next up we've got Factor Fiction, which says reveal the top 5 cards of your library, and opponent separates those cards into 2 piles, put 1 pile into your hand and the other into your graveyard. This is a fantastic draw spell, and a very similar one comes with Epiphany at the Drown Yard. It's essentially an X version of Factor Fiction, which is just slightly less efficient. And finally we're running Biden of Thassa, which says whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player you may draw a card. On top of that we can pay 1 and a blue and tap it, and creatures your opponents control attack this turn of Fable. Now this is a very versatile and effective card in this deck. First off, many of our spirits have flying, so that usually can get them through so we can draw a lot of cards with this. Secondly, we can force our opponents to attack, and most of the time they're not going to want to attack us because of our commander. Again, if they do choose to attack us, our commander can pay them back if we get it through. But outside of our threatening commander, what are some ways to protect us and our team? Let's go through some ways in tactic number 6, Strong Spirits. First up, we've got 2 Fog effects with Ethereal Haze and Kami of False Hope. Either of these can really save us in a pinch. Next up, there's Blessed Breath, which says target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. And we can even splice it onto an arcane spell if we want to. So we can use this either offensively or defensively to protect a creature or to get it through. We even have some creatures that can help out with Spectral Shepherd, Rattle Change, and Drogskull Captain. Spectral Shepherd says pay 1 and a blue, return target spirit you control to its owner's hand. We can use this to save creatures, but we can also use it to get those cast triggers again and again. And then Rattle Chains has Flash, and when it enters the battlefield, target spirit gains hexproof until end of turn. On top of that, it lets us cast our spirit spells as though they had Flash. And then Drogskull Captain says other spirit creatures you control get +1/+1 and have hexproof. So this is a fantastic Anthem effect on top of protecting our creatures. And finally, we've got a very flexible card with Golgari Charm. It says choose 1. All creatures get -1/-1 until end of turn, destroy target enchantment, or regenerate each creature you control. For just 2 mana, this is a fantastic versatile card for this deck. But even if some of our best spirits happen to die, we've got ways to get them back. Let's tackle those ways in tactic number 7, I've got Spirit. First up, there's Kodama the Center Tree, which has power and toughness equal to the number of spirits we control. On top of that, it has Soul Shift X, where X is the number of spirits we control. So the more spirits that we have in play, the better that this gets in multiple ways. Next up, we've got Angel of Flight Alabaster, which says at the beginning of your upkeep, return target spirit card from your graveyard to your hand. Being able to recur 1 spirit a turn can be a huge effect. We can also recur a ton of spirits at once with something like Iname Life Aspect. Whenever it's put into a graveyard from play, you can remove it from the game. If you do, return any number of target spirit cards from your graveyard to your hand. And this card actually works really well with its other half, Iname Death Aspect. It says when it comes into play, you can search your library for any number of spirit cards and put them into your graveyard. If you do, shuffle your library. So if we're set up to recur some of our best spirits, this can work out great. And even if we're not set up, we can still use this to ditch some of our worst ones. Later in the game, we just might not need some of those small spirits that we can play early. Finally, we even have a way to tutor a spirit directly into play with Life Spinner. It has tap, sacrifice 3 spirits, search your library for a legendary spirit card and put it into play, then shuffle your library. And in this deck, we've got plenty of great targets for this. Now, so far we've talked a lot about our plans, but how do we throw a wrench into our opponent's plans? So let's move on to tactic number 8, Spirit in the Sky. First up, there's Mausoleum Wanderer, which says whenever another spirit enters the battlefield under your control, Mausoleum Wanderer gets +1/+1 until end of turn. On top of that, you can sacrifice it to counter target instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays X, where X is its power. Again, on top of playing other spirits, we've even got Anthem effects to make this even more effective. Next up, we've got 2 more counter spells with Negate and Unwind. Both are going to counter target non-creature spell, and we untap up to 3 lands with Unwind. We can also use some spirits though to mess with our opponent's hands as well. Infernal Kieran says, whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, target player reveals his or her hand and discards all the cards with that spell's converted mana cost. Then Kyoki Sanity's Eclipse says, whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, target opponent removes a card in their hand from the game. Again, once we're set up properly, the amount of value that we can get from just casting a single arcane or spirit spell is huge. But what are some ways that we can deal with our opponent's things that are already in play? It's time for us to move on to tactic number 9, Spirited Away. First up, there's Kaiga the Tidestar, which when it dies, we gain control of target creature. This can be a very effective attacker or blocker because our opponents aren't going to want to kill it. The same can be said for Ryusei the Falling Star, because when it dies, it deals 5 damage to each creature without flying. Again, a lot of our spirits in this deck do have flying, so they'll be fine. Next up, we've got Nico Onna, which deals with enchantments, and Yuki Onna, which deals with artifacts. We can also get either of them back into our hand whenever we cast a spirit or arcane spell. And then there's Wear Away, which can destroy either an artifact or an enchantment, and we can splice it. Finally, we've got some great target removal with Despark and Oblation. Despark is going to exile target permanent with converted mana cost of 4 or greater. And then Oblation says the owner of target non-land permanent shovels it into their library, then draws 2 cards. If we're desperate to draw some cards, we can even target one of our own non-land permanents too. Now, we mentioned before, but our commander's effect can be another way to get rid of some things too. Let's talk about some ways to make it even more impactful though in tactic number 10, Smells Like Teen Spirit. First up, there's Trionic Resonator, which we can pay 2 and tap it to copy target triggered ability we control, and we can choose new targets for the copy. This can work fantastically with our commander's trigger, giving us a second copy of it. And this deck has plenty of other triggers to target with this as well. But we can also double up our commander's trigger with Double Strike. To do that, we've got both Fire Shrieker and Blood Mist. Fire Shrieker is an efficient equipment that gives our commander Double Strike. And Blood Mist says at the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gains Double Strike until end of turn. And on top of making our commander's trigger even more effective, it also makes our commander even deadlier too. Since our commander already has 6 power, these essentially turn our commander into a 2-hit kill. And finally, we can make our entire team even deadlier with Berserker's Onslaught. It says attacking creatures you control have Double Strike. So when we're attacking, this can make all of our Anthem effects doubly effective as well. Once you're set up, the amount of value that this deck can generate can get out of hand very quickly. Again, a big thanks to Ben for supporting this channel for over a year now as a general tier patron. If you want to help support the channel or want your own personalized deck tech dedicated to you, consider becoming a patron. But now that we've gone through the spells in this deck, let's go on to the mana base. First up, there's Command Tower, which can tap for any of our colors, and Exotic Orchard, which usually can. Next up, there's Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse, which we can tap to sacrifice and search our library for basic land and put into play tapped. And then we're running all 5 Panoramas with Bant, Esper, Grixis, Jund, and Naya. Next up, there's Warp Landscape, which can tap for colors, or we can pay 2 and tap and sacrifice to get a basic land into play tapped. And then we're running Mirrored Landscape, Frozen Verge, and Blighted Woodland, which we can sacrifice to get 2 lands into play tapped. Next up, there's Cascading Cataracts, which is indestructible, can tap for colors, so we can pay 5 and tap it to add 5 mana in any combination of colors to our mana pool. Finally, we're running 23 basic lands. 8 of those are going to be a forest, 5 will be an island, 4 will be a plains, 3 will be a swamp, and 3 will be a mountain. And now that we've gone through every single card in this deck, let's do a quick price check. A quick reminder that our deck costs are calculated using TCGplayer optimization, optimizing with even heavily played and damaged cards because those cards need a home too. The average O-Kagachi EDH rec deck will set you back $210.98. Our deck is going to be much more affordable, coming in at $49.31. Again, the price of this deck is the price that I got for it on the day that I'm recording. If you want to see a breakdown of this deck's cost, check out the link in the description. Keep in mind that prices can and will fluctuate and change over time. But with these deck costs, I want to be as transparent as I possibly can. Again, Commander's Quarters decks are about to be tuned and focused within their budget, but there are always ways that we can improve on them. So let's go through some reasonable upgrades now to see what some of those ways just might be. First up, let's add in Unclaimed Territory by taking out an island. Next up, let's put in Chromatic Lantern by taking out Petalmane Baku. And then we're going to be adding in Morophon by taking out Iname Death Aspect. Next up, let's put in Selfless Spirit by taking out Golgari Charm. And then we're adding in Boros Charm by taking out Blessed Breath. Finally, let's add in Duelist Heritage by taking out Blood Mist. And now it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what you think about this deck and what you think about the commander in general. And make sure that you're following us on social media for more updates and sneak peeks on future episodes. Links to our social media accounts can be found in the description. Also in the description below is a link to the Commander's Quarters Patreon page, and I just want to say a quick thank you to the patrons who have subscribed so far. There are many benefits to being a patron for the Commander's Quarters, including being able to vote on future commanders for deck techs. There's even a general level tier where you get your own personalized deck tech dedicated to you. I truly couldn't do this without all of your support, so from the bottom of my heart, thank you. If you haven't already, make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. Here at the Commander's Quarters, we're all about budget commander. So while you're at it, go ahead and check out some of our other types of episodes. And with that, I'm out of here. Thanks again and have a good one.